In this lesson on coordinate geometry, we'll talk about how do you use a distance formula to measure the distance between 2 points. All right. Now, before you go there, let me talk to you a little bit about this situation in which we have a town B located 36 kilometers east and 15 kilometers north of town A. How would you find the distance between these 2 points, right? Now, we cannot use any measurement device or things like that because these distances are quite large, right? Now, there are a variety of tools in mathematics that can help us find that distance. For example, if I consider that there is a location of town A as on the origin of this XY coordinate plane, and I say that 36 kilometer east will be going from A and all the way to the right up to this point, for example, and then I travel 15 kilometer north, right? So these are my two dimensions, 36 and 15. Right. Now I can very easily create a triangle which is a right angle triangle, and this is my right angle, and I have two dimensions, 36 and 15, and this is the location of town B. Now once you have constructed this right angle triangle, it is very easy for you to find the distance AB, and you will say that using the Pythagorean theorem I can say that AB square is equal to 36 square plus 15 square, right? Or AB is basically a square root of the above value, and this is how you can find the distance of town B from town A. So using the Pythagorean theorem in this case, it was very easy for you to find the distance AB, right? But let me modify this situation a little bit. Let me say that the town A is located at coordinates. Let's say the coordinates are A, x1 and y1. And the town B is located not in this fashion, but rather it is located at the location B, which is x2 and y2. Okay, how would you find the distance between A and B in this case? Okay, so let me erase this whole thing and let's construct our diagram with respect to the new coordinate system that we have been given. Okay, so we have, let's say this is my point A, which is x1, y1. And let's say this is point B, which is x2, y2. How would you find the distance from point A to point B? It is this distance we are talking about. Now, the coordinate geometry, the distance formula, it tells us that the distance between 2 points on xy coordinate plane can be stated something like this, that it is AB, it is equal to, first find the difference of their x coordinate, square it, and then find the difference of the y coordinates, and then square it and find a square root of that. This is called the distance formula in coordinate geometry. Well, it is very similar to the Pythagorean theorem, and let me show you that how do you obtain this formula using the Pythagorean theorem. So let me do this. Let me drop a perpendicular from point A onto the x-axis. Okay, and also let's drop a perpendicular from point B onto x-axis. Okay. So once you do that, let me extend this a little bit as well. So given that, if I say this is my origin, what will be this value, this specific value where this perpendicular from point A is intersecting with the x-axis? It will be the location x1. And likewise, this will be the location x2, where the intersection of the perpendicular from point B onto the x-axis happens, right? That means based on our learning about the coordinate geometry, this distance is simply x2 minus x1, right? Likewise, you can drop a perpendicular from point A onto the y-axis, and then you can also do the same here as well from point B on the y-axis, and you will say that, well, these distances are y2 and y1 respectively, and the real distance between these two locations is simply y2 minus y1, right? Now, this knowledge of the vertical distance and the horizontal distance, it can give you a very simple situation that it can help you construct a right angle triangle, something like this. And let's say that this is the point C. Now, using the Pythagorean theorem on this right angle triangle, you can say that I can define my distance AB as square root of AC square plus CB square, right? And then you can simply replace the dimension AC and CB with the respective x-axis dimension and the y-axis dimension, just like what you see here, right? So AC is in fact x2 minus x1, and you will have a square of that, and CB is y2 minus y1, and you will have a square of that, and this whole thing will be under a square root. Well, this is exactly our distance formula, that what you just learned here, right? So the point is, in coordinate geometry, the distance formula simply tells you a way of finding the distance between 2 points if you are given their x coordinates and y coordinates. Okay, so now let's take a look at one example in which we'll be using this formula to find the distance or the value of the unknown point between 2 points. Okay, so let's go take a look at that. Now, our task is that what point on y-axis is at a distance of 4 square root of 2 units from the point. Now let's do this. Let's plot all of this given information on this xy coordinate plane. So first, let's say that this is my given point A. It is at location 4, 8. So let's say this is my location 4, 8, right? Now, the other point which is on the y-axis, let's say that point is B. And if it is here, for example, since it is on y-axis, I will say that the x coordinate is always 0 and it is the y value that we need to find. So the coordinates of point B are 0 and y, where y is unknown. But we have been given one more thing, that the distance between these 2 points A and B is 4 square root of 2 units. That means if I simply apply my distance formula, it will tell me that the distance formula will be the difference of their x coordinates, which will be 4 minus 0, right? 4 is coming from exactly this value, right? And square of that, and then you will have the difference of their y coordinates, which will be y minus 8, right? It will be y minus 8, square of that, and this whole thing will come under a square root. And we know that this distance AB is equal to 4 square root of 2 units. So now you have one equation in which you have only one unknown. This unknown is the value of y. So let's solve it. Let me square this whole thing. So we'll say that 4 square root of 2 and square of that is equal to 16. It is coming from here, and then you have y minus 8 square, and this will be something like this, right? That means this value will become 32, right? And this is 16 plus y minus 8 square. So let's separate our variables and constants. So you will say that 16 will go on to the other side of the equation. Then it will be 32 minus 16. So it will be 16 is equal to y minus 8 whole square. Or you can take now the square root on both sides. So as I simplify, this will reduce down to 4, and this will be equal to y minus 8. Or in other words, you will say that y is equal to 8 plus 4, which is 12. So this value of y is equal to 12. So the coordinates of this unknown point B, which is on the y-axis, are 0, 12, right? So this is one application of the distance formula, that how do you find an unknown by applying this principle of the distance formula, right? All right, so with that, we take a pause here and move on to our next tutorial about the section formula.